I don't know who I'm writing this to or why. It's the end of the world after all, so everybody knows all I have to say anyway. But somehow, I feel that I have to tell this to someone. So, it began as slight jolts from under the ground. Nobody really paid attention to them, especially in seismically active regions. People thought these were just minor earthquakes. They talked about them in the news, but only few actually cared. My parents, I was only 12 back then, were among those who did, but let's save it for later. In just a year, the jolts became much stronger and more frequent. In some areas, they turned into full-fledged earthquakes, doing a lot of damage to cities and villages. Worse still, previously dormant volcanoes began waking up. All over the world, people started raising alarm. Scientists talked a lot about climate change and impact of humankind, but it was obvious nobody really had any definitive answers. It didn't get any better either. As months went by, earthquakes and volcano eruptions gradually grew in power and frequency. At first, only one major natural disaster per month was reported. But in 2 more years, there were at least 4 of them occurring within the same period in every corner of the world. Even the normally calm regions suffered from quakes and resulting tsunamis. People tried to adapt, but it was all unfolding too fast for us to react adequately. All we had left to do was to learn to be always ready to move out from our homes and run. We stopped building big and sturdy apartment buildings, opting for lightweight 3D printed houses. They were easily destroyed but easily built too, which was a huge advantage. Items of luxury were rapidly losing their value, while on the other hand, mobile electronics and survival tools grew in price. People began really appreciating what they had and each other. Neighbors were helping one another, and whole towns unified their efforts to build strong communities and prepare for the worst together. And the worst came sooner than we expected. One day, the whole planet was shaken in one titanic earthquake. We thought it was the end for us all, because the ground went on shaking for hours and didn't cease until the next day. And then came reports from the Atlantic coast. The ocean receded, leaving vast swaths of naked sand and corals. Research teams on helicopters went to learn what caused this cataclysm and found the unthinkable. There was an enormous whirlpool in the middle of the Atlantic, hundreds of times bigger than the largest sinkhole in the world. The water from the ocean was gushing down the gigantic drain, as if someone pulled the plug on the bottom. In a sense, that was exactly what happened. Tectonic plates beneath the Atlantic came apart, forming a huge gap in the bottom. Boiling magma poured out, but was extinguished by the overwhelming mass of water, which then rushed down into the abyss. It went away so quickly that the overall water level fell in a matter of hours. The event was dubbed the Great Atlantic Rift, but it was still only the beginning. With the rising frequency of earthquakes and eruptions, wind patterns around the world changed, resulting in massive hurricanes. It seemed the whole planet was against its inhabitants. But like I said earlier, my parents were the ones who cared, and they had to know the reason. They were geologists at the International Space Agency, which continued its work even through all the cataclysms. And it was them who came to the distressing conclusion. For some unknown reason, the Earth had started to grow in size. It would explain everything. The ever more frequent earthquakes were caused by tectonic plates come into motion. The flowing magma was pushed from the mantle up towards the crust and burst onto the surface in places suited exactly for that – volcanoes. And that meant there would be other events like the Great Atlantic Rift, only even more catastrophic. After another year, we moved to live in the agency, along with the families of other employees and research workers. The buildings were made to withstand almost anything, so we were protected from the horrors of the outside. We took in as many people as we could, but of course, it wasn't nearly enough. Millions more were left to their own devices, and we could only hope that everyone was safe. By that time, as scientists estimated, the planet had already grown 1.5 times its original size, and by the looks of it, the rate at which it ballooned was growing. In another year of our bunkered life, we witnessed it grow twice again. Rifts even bigger than the one in the Atlantic popped up in different parts of the world, causing widespread chaos. Everyone went to live underground where it was relatively safe. Communications between continents were all but lost, and all we learned about the situation above was from daring expeditions by scientists. The planet was ravaged by quakes, volcanic eruptions, tsunamis, and hurricanes, happening almost daily now. Life on the surface was virtually impossible. It was then that the joint team of researchers and engineers suddenly came out with the solution they'd been working on for the last 5 years. They called it the Ark. It turned out several teams agreed to build huge spaceships to evacuate humankind, along with the surviving animal, fish, and insect species in case the Earth comes apart. And the time they'd feared finally came. Everyone in the agency's buildings, including me and my parents, were escorted to an enormous hall where one of the arks was kept. All other people from the continent who managed to come were also there. We were given personal IDs and then allowed to board. Each person was allocated a separate capsule that was to keep us hibernating for the whole time of space travel. We were told we were the colonists, the pioneers in space settlement. We were going to Mars. And that's how I ended up here, where I'm writing all this. We successfully boarded the Ark and were put to sleep in our capsules. When I woke up, we were already landing. I won't bore you with the details of terraforming and settling in our new home. At first, we all wore special suits equipped with oxygen tanks. But soon enough, we built a dome with artificial atmosphere and started making the territory suitable for living, both for us and for the animals we brought. Since then, 10 years have passed already. We're feeling almost at home on the red planet, which isn't really red anymore. There are lush forests and big cities sprawling all around. Mars is inactive, so there are no earthquakes or hurricanes here. Life is pretty peaceful, although it's as busy as can be with all the work that still has to be done. But all this time, we've all been anxiously watching our home planet grow in size. At first, it was barely visible in the night sky, but as months passed, it became more and more apparent until one day it could be viewed in some detail with an unaided eye. Today, it's the size of the moon in our skies and visible even in the light of day. The sun is much smaller from here than it was seen from Earth, so basically, our home planet is now larger than its star. Through telescopes, we can see its surface covered in scars and fissures dozens of times bigger than the Grand Canyon. There are no more seas and oceans, and continents drifted far apart. The once green and blue and welcoming world is now a barren wasteland, boiling with fire and brimstone. The sun isn't helping it either. When the planet was small, the star bathed it in its light and warmth, giving it life and energy. Now, when Earth is 100 times larger, the sun is scorching its surface and burning off the remnants of its atmosphere. But even that's not all. With the size, the gravity has grown too. Being so big and massive, Earth has collided with the moon, virtually eating it up. Venus, which was similar to the previous Earth, started to be tugged toward the suddenly grown planet and was soon to run into it as well. And Earth itself is slowly gravitating toward the sun. Scientists say that one day it would first consume both Venus and Mercury and then get burned completely in the sun's heat. Wow. All I can hope now is to never see it with my own eyes. TRES-2b, or not to be, is a planet where night never ends. And it's not your regular night with stars shining in the beautiful skies. Here it's pitch dark and scorching hot. TRES-2b is a gas giant, roughly 1.5 times more massive than Jupiter, and its surface absorbs light better than charcoal. It might also have a faint dark red glow because of its burning air, which is as hot as fresh lava. Lovely. In the star system of 55 Cancri, there are 5 planets, 4 of which are gas giants similar to Jupiter and Saturn. But the 5th one, or rather the first because it's closest to the star, is different in a most horrible way. 55 Cancri e is so close to its sun that half the planet's surface is a literal ocean of molten lava. The other half is in eternal darkness because it never sees the sun. The planet is always turned to its star on one side. And between the scorching and the dark, there's the twilight zone, a thin strip of gloomy nothingness. That's a getaway spot. HD 189377b, well, I'm not going to say that again, is the only exoplanet in the orbit of its star. And at first glance, it looks quite pretty, blue and white swirls making up wondrous patterns on the surface. But these pleasant colors actually come from hard silicate particles in the planet's atmosphere, which means it rains glass here. But the worst is that winds reach the speed of 5,400 miles per hour, or almost Mach 7. Well, for comparison, the fastest wind speed on Earth was 254 miles per hour, over 20 times less. Thus, the glass falling from the sky travels horizontally at hypersonic speeds, shredding everything in its path. Better duck. The next system, whose name I won't even try to pronounce, this one, has 3 exoplanets, which are all being slowly destroyed by their own star. It happens because that star is not a regular. It's a pulsar, a rapidly spinning core of an exploded star. It creates powerful electromagnetic pulses in several directions while rotating at several thousand times per second. As a result, the planets orbiting this deceased star are slowly being eaten away and will eventually disappear entirely. Kepler-70, hey, I can say that one, is a hot blue dwarf star that exploded into a red giant some 18 million years ago. At the time, it was orbited by at least 2 planets, the closer of which was a Jupiter-like gas giant. Its name was Kepler-70b, and it still exists, but the overgrown star consumed it and transformed it into a blazing hot rocky world. Right now, it's one of the hottest planets ever discovered. Its temperature is higher than the surface of our Sun. It was lucky to survive spending time inside the star, but it's evaporating now and will probably be no more in the near future. WASP-12b is one of the weirdest and saddest planets out there. The enormous gravity of its star, combined with the planets consisting mostly of gas, result in the star slowly devouring its protege. So pal, what's eating you? My mother. WASP-12b has already taken the form of an egg, stretched toward its merciless sun, and it's unable to do anything with its condition. In another 10 million years, the planet will inevitably succumb to the voracious star's appetite. Hey, you asked. If you ever wondered what it's like to walk on ice and hot coals at the same time, Gliese 436b is a planet that would give you a vivid example. Being extremely close to its sun, the Neptune-sized exoplanet boasts temperatures hotter than a blazing oven, and yet it's covered in ice, which burns incessantly. This ice is much denser due to the enormous gravity of the planet, staying solid even under extreme conditions and not melting away. No list of frightening worlds could do without mentioning Venus, the Earth's evil twin. The second planet from the Sun has an atmosphere so thick and full of clouds that its surface is much hotter than that of Mercury. Volcanic eruptions constantly thrash Venus. Its gravity is almost 100 times stronger than ours, and those clouds I mentioned are not made of water but of sulfuric acid, which condenses and rains down on the ground, adding to the inferno. But even if you were brave, or crazy, enough to try to pass through these clouds, you probably couldn't. The winds up there are as strong as some of the most powerful hurricanes back on Earth. Here we have a very long name for a very, very cold planet. Although the host star is not too far away, it's a small and rather cool red dwarf, whose light and heat barely even reach the planet. The temperatures out there fall as low as minus 370 degrees, which is only marginally warmer than absolute zero. The exoplanet is thus dark, gloomy, and covered in eternal ice that never thaws. I thought I thaw that thumbworth. Still, if it has a rocky core, it might generate some heat, so there's a chance that deep below the frozen surface, some unknown alien things might lurk. Dimidium, located roughly 50 light-years away from our solar system, is a planet hostile to any living thing on many accounts. It's tidally locked to its sun, which means one of its sides is always facing the star, while the other is always turned away. The hot side is heated to over 1800 degrees, perpetually blown over with winds reaching 600 miles per hour. And that's winter. Well, actually, I don't know that. Despite Dimidium being a gas giant, it has a large amount of iron in it, which melts and evaporates in the atmosphere, creating clouds. And when those cool down, they fall on the surface in the infernal rain of molten iron. That'll test your mettle. Oxygen is usually viewed as an element that might bring life to a planet, but this is definitely not the case for Osiris. Scientists were shocked to find oxygen on this planet, or rather around it, because it's 8 times closer to its star than Mercury is to the Sun. This extreme distance makes Osiris a living melting pot, where anything that could burn will. It's also responsible for a very short orbit of the planet around the star. A year on Osiris is just 3.5 days on Earth. To boot, the atmosphere of the planet is constantly blown and melted away by the heat from its sun. Vacation? Nah, let's keep looking. Karat XO 3b is neither as hot nor as cold as some of the others on this list, but it's terrifying in its own more insidious way. It's a gas giant similar in size to Jupiter, yet 20 times denser. This makes this exoplanet's gravity weigh down on everything on its surface 50 times more than it would on Earth. Stepping on it would be your ultimate doom, because you'd be immediately crushed by the density of its atmosphere. Karat 7b is another oven-like world. Its day-to-day temperature is over 4,000 degrees. Combined with the rocky surface, it presents an infernal landscape. The rocks on the ground bubble and boil, evaporating in the atmosphere, where they cool down and eventually fall back on the surface in a brimstone rain. The saddest thing about Karat 7b is that it might have once been a gas giant whose atmosphere melted away from the heat, leaving only the scorched core.
During the recent years, scientists made 2 breakthrough discoveries about our universe. Thanks to new technologies, we've looked into the distant past. And we've learned something that can change our understanding of the universe forever. What are these discoveries and what do they mean to us? Let's find out. Recently, we unveiled the first color image from the James Webb Space Telescope. It's a mind-bending photo capturing thousands of ancient galaxies. This oldest documented light in the history of the universe dates back over 13 billion years. That's just 600 million years after the Big Bang. It's like getting a sneak peek into the universe's baby album. But that was just the beginning. Astronomers were expecting to see some tiny young galaxies, but what they found was a real surprise. Impossibly early, impossibly massive, and all that from just a tiny red dot. The lead author of the study, Ivo Laba, was working at the computer as usual, and suddenly he got 2 numbers. Age, 13 billion years. Weight, 100 billion stars. When he realized what that meant, he nearly spit out his coffee. But that red dot was just the beginning. The next day they found 5 more galaxies just like this. Turns out, these 6 massive galaxies are as old as the Milky Way itself. The entire research team was in disbelief. They were like, wait, what? These guys couldn't be that mature so early in time. Did we make a mistake? But nope. The James Webb Space Telescope, the new cool guy on the space block, just has some serious skills. It can see through dust clouds with its infrared vision and spot galaxies that were previously invisible. Move over Hubble. There's a new stargazer in town. But why is it shaking things up so much? Because this discovery affects our understanding of how galaxies formed. Let's try to explain. A long time ago, 13.8 billion years ago to be precise, our universe was born. It was chilling out for a while, and then it started to form the first galaxies. And these galaxies were full of gas and dust. Eventually, this gas started turning into stars. Some galaxies were more massive and had more stars, and some were lighter and had almost no stars at all. In any case, they all grew gradually. The stars in them were born slowly and smoothly. That's how our current models explain this. But these new observations from the James Webb Space Telescope show an unexpected surprise. Looks like, even in the early universe, our ancient friends had lots of stars. More than what we would ever expect. If that's the case, then these galaxies are like the overachievers of the universe. They skipped the small and gradual growth phase and went straight to being giant universe breakers. According to our current cosmological model, they shouldn't even exist. But they do, so it looks like after the Big Bang, the stars were forming much faster than we thought, which is pretty weird. This could mean that there's something missing in our understanding of the galaxy formation. As you can see, these universe breakers are really living up to their name, causing a potential total consensus among scientists. The universe was like, hey, I'm about to flip cosmology models upside down. But let's not jump to conclusions. There are many theories that could explain these mind-boggling discoveries without breaking the standard model. For example, maybe the light we're seeing isn't coming from stars at all, but from the swirling disks of doom around supermassive black holes. These colossal cosmic beasts can gobble up matter and spit out a dazzling light show. And James Webb Telescope's keen eye is picking up on these enigmatic accretion disks like never before. Or maybe these galaxies could be playing hide-and-seek with us. Maybe there's more to the story that we haven't seen yet. After all, the universe is vast and mysterious, and we've only just begun to scratch the surface. And whoa, we really need to slow down here. Before we even try to explain all this stuff, we need to confirm whether these ancient galaxies really are that old. Although even if they're actually just supermassive black holes, it still shows an astounding change. We'll have to wait about a year to find out. One thing's for sure, the James Webb Space Telescope has definitely taught us a valuable lesson. Expect the unexpected. And this is just the beginning of unexpected. Evolaba's team wasn't the only one who made such a huge breakthrough. There's also a team that claims that they've unlocked the secrets of the universe's past, and that's worth 2 Nobel Prizes. Move over James Webb Space Telescope, because this discovery came from an antenna that's smaller than a fridge and costs less than $5 million. Talk about space bargain hunting! The astronomers caught this signal that showed some surprises. It was coming from the earliest stars of our universe, back in the days when they were just beginning to twinkle. Say hi to our celestial ancestors again. Now, the signal was pretty weird. The temperatures were unusually low, and there was a pronounced wave that left astronomers scratching their heads. What could be causing all this? Well, there's a theory. Dark matter may have been at work, and if that's the case, then we can really be on the verge of a great discovery. Imagine you're looking at the night sky filled with stars, but there's something else there that you can't see. It's like an invisible cloak that covers the entire universe. Scientists call this mysterious stuff dark matter. Dark matter is like the ghost of our world. It doesn't emit, absorb, or reflect any light. We can't see it with telescopes or our eyes. That's why we call it dark matter. But if we can't detect it in any way, how do we know it exists? Because of its gravitational pull. One day we noticed that our understanding of how galaxies were created was incorrect. According to our calculations, they should have been some chaotic gas, but something held them together, turning them into spirals, like some kind of invisible glue. Then we thought, maybe this invisible glue really exists. If the moon was invisible, we would still suspect that it exists somewhere because its gravity affects the tides on Earth. This is also the case with dark matter. Its gravity influences the motion of galaxies and other cosmic objects. In fact, dark matter makes up a huge chunk of the universe, about 27% of it. Moreover, the normal matter we can see, like stars, planets, and galaxies, only make up about 5% of the universe. So even though we can't see dark matter, there's actually more of it in the universe than everything we can see. Scientists are still trying to figure out if dark matter exists and what it can be made of. Some theories suggest that it could be made up of exotic particles that are different from the particles that we're used to. Others think that it might be some kind of weird, undiscovered form of matter that doesn't interact with light at all. Anyway, it's an intriguing mystery, and if we ever confirm the existence of dark matter, our understanding of our world will change forever. So now you can understand why the excitement in the scientific community is palpable. If this discovery is confirmed, then we will get the first real proof of dark matter. This discovery may be even more important than the Big Bang itself because, as astronomers put it, we are made of star stuff, and so we are glimpsing at our origin. But of course, we still have to wait and explore all this in great detail. In science, one should never rush to conclusions. And while scientists study this stuff, we'll be here, on the edge of our seats waiting for the next space blockbuster to unfold. The universe never ceases to amaze us with its wonders. Who knew that such a small and humble antenna could unlock such cosmic secrets? It just goes to show that in the vastness of space, even the tiniest discoveries can have the biggest impact. Keep looking up, and who knows what other cosmic surprises are waiting to be uncovered.
That's it for today. So hey, if you pacified your curiosity, then give the video a like and share it with your friends. Or if you want more, just click on these videos and stay on the bright side.